All right, so our daily Scorpio horoscope is this, according to tarot.com. Fear may bring on mistakes at the moment. You might feel worried about something that you can't control, and with these nerves coursing through you, it's even more difficult to stay on track. You're extra likely to make missteps, read things wrong, or miscommunicate with others, even though your intentions are good. Explaining your concerns to others probably wouldn't go well, so your wisest choice would be to steer clear of any confrontations or dangerous situations that don't involve you. Play it safe.
Uh-oh.
I feel like that is accurate. For one, I had missteps trying to record that horoscope.
Yeah.
And there's just some other personal things in my life I feel like that could be relevant too.
Well, I love confrontation, so it's good that it's reminding me, let's lay off the confrontation for the next couple days.
Let's just take a little break. Okay.
I think we should just jump right in. We've got a juicy topic today.
Yes.
It is, did you peak in high school? Did you peak in college? Are you peaking now?
Yeah, just like when we feel like we've peaked in life, how our high school and college experiences were, and just like the friendships we've like made and lost along the way. So it's kind of like a combo of different things that we feel like relate to one another.
Right. When I was in college, I'm like, I peaked in high school. Like, I looked back at pictures of myself in high school, and I'm like, oh my God, look at that. I was so good looking. I just was... This sounds so bad, but I just like looked so good. I don't think I was like mentally in a good state though. Like I feel like I was like an angry little high schooler,
like angsty,
moody, yeah.
But aren't we all? We all go through a phase.
Yeah, and so I think like emotionally I did not peak because I was also like very shy, and I feel like I've definitely come out of my shell a lot. Mm-hmm. But looks wise, I was like, oh my God, I peaked in high school. I look amazing. But now that I'm in this stage of life, I feel like I'm peaking now.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've come out of my shell. I'm not like quiet anymore. Still kind of am, depending on who you are. But like I'm at a new job that I like. I feel like I own a house. Like I've got a good family. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm peaking now. But if you would have asked me in college, I definitely would have said high school.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense. I feel like your early 20s, you're like, you feel a little like you've been in grade school and high school your whole life. And then you're in college where it's a little different and you're kind of an adult, but you're kind of not still. Like you have responsibilities, but not too many. And then now you are like, feel like a more accomplished adult. So I feel like it makes sense to feel like, oh, I had peaked in high school, or I'm peaking now. And like the time of your life when you didn't is because you really were just like,
yeah,
all over the place.
I was also like going through my overweight phase, and I hate, like I would always be like, oh my God, I am so fat. And people are like, no, you're not. And I'm like, listen, just because I'm not 300 pounds does not mean I'm not big for how like I'm supposed to be. Like I'm supposed to look like this. And I was like 30 pounds heavier, and everyone's like, oh, it's just like your freshman 15, and I'm like, I'm eating the exact same, I'm doing everything the same. Like, yeah, I'm drinking like Busch Light a little bit more, but that is not going to make me gain 30 pounds. And it was because I was on birth control, because I stopped taking birth control and all of the weight went away.
It's
literally
crazy.
Changed nothing, but not taking that anymore. Now I do have 2 kids now. So,
well,
choose your path wisely. Do you want to be overweight, or do you want to have kids? But but yeah, so I definitely think that's why I was also like looking back on pictures of myself and being like, oh my God, like I was so pretty then, because I was so much more overweight than I was in high school.
Probably a couple things.
Yeah,
you know?
So now I'm like back down to my normal weight, and I'm like, I feel like it's a flex. Like I have 2 kids and I am looking good. Not to be so full of myself at the beginning of this freaking episode, but what do you think?
Well, I definitely did not peak in high school, that's for sure. I was a very shy, introverted kid growing up. I was reserved. I had a very small class of 19 kids. And so I have always been a little behind when it comes to everything, I think. And I don't really know the reason for that. Like, I'm like the youngest of 4 kids, but I think I like watched them make mistakes, and so I was like scared. I don't know. There's a lot there, but I didn't even like wear makeup till I was seriously like 17 years old, and even then it wasn't a lot. I didn't play sports. I didn't date in high school. And it was weird because when I would say my senior year of high school is when I started like dressing up a little more, kind of curled my hair, kind of had makeup on, and I did start like showing my personality off a lot. And I wasn't like, my school, there wasn't like popular kids or not popular kids. Like there were people that were like in sports, so I guess they could be considered. But I definitely wasn't an outsider. I got along with everyone. But it was funny, my senior year of high school, people were like, where's this version of you been? I was like, I just don't care anymore. And they're like, you're funny and you have good music taste, and like I actually dressed up and cared a little more. But even then, I wouldn't consider that peaking. I really felt like I peaked when I was like, 21 to like 24ish, because like I like moved out of that small town, went to college, I made friends at my job, made friends in college, started hanging out with people. And it's funny, I didn't get a freshman 15. I actually lost weight, and it's I think because I was working in a retail place where I was walking probably 20 to 25 miles a week just from that, as well as going to school on a campus where I had to walk around a lot. So that's where I feel like I really blossomed. And so I would say I peaked after high school, kind of like towards the end of college, and even a couple years after college. And then, I got an office job, and I gained a little weight. I'd say like 6 or 7 pounds, not like a ton, but enough that you kind of can notice it. And I think that's just going from like being really active to sitting down a lot, and then you're snacking a lot and stuff. So I would say that, but I feel like the last couple years I've been like kind of how you maybe felt in your early 20s, a little more lost. Like, okay, I just turned 29 and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the last year of my 20s. And something in me the last couple months has been like, we don't have time to waste anymore. So I don't know why it's something, and I think it's in a good way. It's like maybe an own form of a midlife crisis, but I think it's been a good thing, like doing this podcast with Mallory, which is really fun. I'm recording my other friends and just other personal advances I'm trying to make. And I think that that's like a really positive thing. Like, okay, now or never to do certain stuff. Like, I don't know. So I feel like I am peaking in a different way. I think you kind of go through those, like, obviously, like, uphill, downhill moments. And, like, I feel like right now we both feel that way. And I feel like the people I've surrounded myself with, my other friends very much being the same way. And it's, like, really positive energy that I think's kind of, like, I don't know if I would say intoxicating, but like when you see other people doing it, it's kind of like you want to do it. And it's like been really nice to see everybody just trying to live their best lives.
Yeah, it's funny how you said like your senior year, how everyone was like, wow, I didn't know that you like were like this, like you had this personality. Mm-hmm. That's how I was in college, because there was like a few people from my high school who went to my college, and like I would go out to parties and they're like, oh my God, like I did not know you were like this. Like, you're funny.
But like
I know, because I was in such a shell in high school.
Yeah, but like I think with that too, to be said, is I don't know about you, but like I said, I had 19 kids in my class, and I had classes with all the same kids my whole life, where people that come from bigger schools get to interact with different kids and do different things. And like I didn't even play sports, so I didn't meet people that way. And I think that like you grow up with them and they just have an image of their head, and I think you're like scared to make a, like, subconsciously we're like nervous to like make that change. But once you graduate high school and you're going to college, you're meeting new people, you really have the freedom to be who you want to be. Right. So it's not necessarily that you were hiding it, like maybe that's kind of who you were, but you had the chance to like be yourself or who you wanted, or figure it out without feeling weird, because it's hard in high school if you try to start doing things differently. People are like, whoa, what is this? Because it's not what they've been used to seeing for years.
Well, in middle school I was a crackhead. Like I was so like talkative, and I would do like crazy stuff, and then I got to high school and I just was so quiet. And
I wonder if that just goes to like puberty, or just you go through the angsty teenage years.
Well, I also like I didn't wear makeup or anything, and my face would get red, and people would point it out. They're like, "Oh my God, your face is red." Like, are you embarrassed?
Like that's helpful.
I know. It's so that I think that's what like put me in a shell, because I was like, if I just don't put myself out there, like my face won't get red and people won't bring it out. Yeah. But then like I went to college and I like wore makeup, and I pretend like that's like a mask now. Like, oh, they can't see my face getting red because like I have makeup on. So I think that is also like a really big thing. Yeah. And my friend, my freshman or sophomore year, I can't remember now. I think it was sophomore year, but she like moved to another country, like, and then like I had 2 really good best friends, and then like I was just had one friend after that. Yeah. And she was kind of close with some other people who I wasn't like
super close
with. Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. And and so like she would hang out with them, and I would just like kind of just do my own thing. And yeah, so then when I went to college and I made a bunch of other friends, and they like took me out on the town and broke me out of my shell,
which is good. Yeah. You just like, you can't help where you go to high school, where you grow up and things, so like you are kind of limited to that. Yeah. But yeah, I would say like I was the same way. I've never, and I mentioned this in like one of our last episodes, I've never had a ton of friends. Like I have friends and people I get along with. I don't have, I would say in my more like early 20s, I started having more enemies and dealing with like that. I didn't have drama in high school and I dealt with that in retail. It's like where I had my high school experience. But for the most part, I have what I would say friends and acquaintances, but I only ever at any point in my life have maybe 2 to 3 really close friends at a time. It always seems like if someone fades out, someone else comes in. And I think that that's natural. You go through the ebbs and flows, and as you're going through different periods in your life, like sometimes you just grow apart or people don't feel like they're growing and changing. It just depends. But like I don't have the same, like I had a best friend all throughout high school, even the first couple years after high school, and then like I've not talked to her in years. And it's just it's no hate, it's all love, but some people just grow apart and trying to force something that isn't there because you have a shared history. It just doesn't always work.
Well, my big thing was when I turned 21, like I was going to bars and stuff, and that is the point when I had like the most friends. I had so many friends, but like I got pregnant 6 months into turning 21, and I have not spoken to 90% of those people since I stopped going to the bars. It's crazy.
Like they're your bar friends.
Yeah, like I even still have some of them on Instagram, and we just never talked again. And that's crazy to think about, like how I considered them like friends, because I would see them out 3 days out of the week and then nothing. It's wild.
I think it's important to know that you will just like those were college friends. You get pregnant, they are not friends that are going to move to that next phase of your life. And just understand where people's place are in your life, and that like they weren't obviously true friends. Like, and that happens a lot when people, like, I mean, you probably understand, like, getting pregnant and having kids, seeing who makes the effort, who doesn't, and what friends fall off if you don't put in effort.
Yeah, which I've went through, like, a bunch of phases. I could probably go on about this.
You more than me, even though you're a little younger. You definitely, I can imagine.
Yeah, like, after I got pregnant, like, people just stopped inviting me to stuff. And then, like, after I had my son, people wanted to watch him all the time. Like, my parents would be like, I want to watch him, or Tanner's parents would be like, I want to watch him tonight, like overnight. So we would still go out and stuff, and my friends just would not invite us out to stuff. And even like going to eat lunch or something, I'm like, he is portable, like I can take him places. So I had to have like talks with my friends, like, hey, invite me to things, like you're not being like a really good friend right now.
Yeah, like even if you say no, at least you put the invite out there. Don't just make the assumption, especially as like a new mom.
Exactly.
A young new mom.
Exactly. So I definitely I think they realized after I talked to them, like, oh, okay. But I still have friends that I really don't see as much, but mainly because like we all graduated and
people moved off.
Yeah, everybody moved away. So
yeah.
It's hard, like, making new friends.
But didn't you, like, a handful of, like, college friends, you guys all kind of had kids at the same time, too, right? Which is kind of nice. It's like you weren't, like, just the youngest and everyone off went and did things. Like, you have a handful that also...
Right. And then our biggest barrier is, like, we just live 2 hours away. Yeah. So having the time to get everybody together is hard to do.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I know that you, like, tried to do, like, wasn't there some app... like that you can try to make friends as a parent, which kind of seems like a good idea, but I can also see that being scary. And like,
it was like Tinder for parents, and I met my now husband on Tinder. So I'm like, well, let's meet some friends on this like Peanut app. Well, where I live is like kind of a small town, and it's a college town, so not a lot of people are like moms here.
Yeah.
And
or you probably know of them,
right?
even.
And I feel like people that are moms, like they already have their like a little established groups. So it's called the Peanut app, and it's literally moms who like post like pictures, and then they answer like those little prompts and stuff, and then you just swipe left or right if you want to like be friends. And I did, like, one day I just went through, I'm like, okay, I'm doing it, and like nobody responded back. And like I even messaged one girl, which her daughter is in Haven's daycare, and they're friends, and I don't think that she realizes, because like everybody I think just gets the app, and then deletes it.
Probably scared. It's scary.
Yeah. And well, she messaged me and I messaged her back and then she never said anything else. But it's funny because like our kids are friends at daycare and she definitely doesn't recognize me. I don't know how she
Yeah.
the only reason I recognize them because their daughter has like a very distinct look. And I was like, oh my God, I know you. And then I put two and two together. But it was like a terrible app. It's a good concept, but like nobody used it. So it was just like you were putting yourself out there and then you were just getting rejected because nobody was replying to you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to delete this. And I tried like mom groups, but I feel like everyone who is in mom groups in this area are just like weirdos.
Yeah.
So I had one friend move back into town with kids. So we've been hanging out more, but it's just like hard in general.
Yeah, it definitely is. I remember like 3 years ago, it was like 2020, like just probably a handful of months after COVID began. Haley was like my one and only friend. Like I had a couple other friends, but she's the one I depend on the most as like a best friend. I realized, you know, that may not be super healthy of me to put all my expectations into her. She can't always be available. And I need to have some like different friends with like different interests and maybe can be more available. And she's in this like kind of more recent but serious relationship, and she's like invited me to go on like a literal quadruple double date. Like I'm gonna be the only one single and there's gonna be 5 other couples. No thank you. I'd rather
not.
Yeah, I won't say what I was gonna say. Absolutely not. And I told her, I said, I need to start like finding some, like I need to branch out. I told her, I was like, I need to find some other friends. I said, love you, but I need that. And it's weird because I already had this mindset. And literally a couple of days later, I'm at my work and a girl, her name is Ashley, and she's the one that I do the Self-Misguided podcast with her. So shout out to that. And she messaged me on Facebook like, hey, I know this is a weird question, but like, would you want to hang out sometime? And it was so funny because like she'd been liking my stuff and I liked hers. And there's definitely, it had crossed my mind to reach out, but it's hard to do that on like a friend level without it coming across weird. But she was going through a separation herself, and her best friend is someone who has kids. And she's like, that's great, but I need someone who can just, like if I was like, hey, do you want to go to Arkansas right now? Let's go. Hey, do you want to go do this right now? Let's go. And we were both at such similar places in our lives. And so like we hung out for hours. We like walked the trails. We drove around, like trauma dumped on each other a little bit. And then we literally hung out every day for like months. And then she, there was this guy that we worked with because we had actually known each other, I guess, from the retail place we worked at years before. So we were never great friends, but we had conversations here and there, acquaintances. And I told her like, oh, you should text this one guy because he was going through a divorce. I was like, make him our third friend. And literally in months, they were like moved in together. In 2 years, moved in, married, pregnant, dog, house, like every possible thing. And she was someone who didn't know she wanted to get married again. She didn't ever want to have kids. And so now she's in a way different place than I am still. But at that point in time, that is what we needed.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting how like we were in the same place at the same time, it all worked out. And I do think that's what kind of makes me feel better about life, is how everything works out for a reason. And yeah, so she's one of my best friends now. Even I usually see her once a week to help record their podcast and post content for them.
Yeah, I have a friend who is friends with this other girl because she like slid into their DMs, and I'm like, that is so ballsy. Like, I need to try that.
Yeah, but sometimes just being transparent. Like, I think if someone, unless you thought they were super weird, if someone reached out to me just like, hey, like, would you like be open to reconnecting? Like, I think that'd be a hard thing to say no to. Like, I definitely don't mind going to lunch with you and talking. Like, if you see something there, like, and I feel like we should normalize it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to make friends in your 20s.
It is.
Or, I mean, like, late 20s. And it's not like you have school and college and sports and all these things to hold you together. So you either have to do it at your jobs or, like, through you if your kids become friends with other kids and you befriend those parents. But it's a lot harder.
It is. And especially in your 20s, because I feel like everyone is at such different points in their 20s. Like, once you get to your 40s, like, you're a family, everybody's a family with kids. Like, there's not a lot of single, maybe like divorced people, but pretty much everybody's in the same stage of life. But when you're in your 20s, like, you can be in college, or you can be married with kids, or you can be just married. Like, everyone's at different stages. So
yeah,
I think
seriously.
that's why it's hard.
And like my close friends, Mallory's married with kids. My other friend just got married. And then my other friend is married with kids. And I'm like literally the only single one. And it's so weird. But I mean, it's not like a bad thing. But my friend Haley only just recently got married, you know, and she's been my best friend for like 8 years. And so I've seen her date like some really crappy people and vice versa. And even Ashley in the last 3 years, completely single to whole freaking family,
Yeah,
you know,
it
and
can
with a
happen
cat
fast.
too. I forgot to mention the cat. But yeah, so 20s really is anyone can be at a different stage, and it can happen quickly too. Like you
Yeah.
can be in a totally different place in like a year or two.
Agreed.
So we always talk about it's important to pivot. She's like, Danielle's always been really good at pivoting. Like, oh, I want to get married again. Pivot. Oh, I need some like mental space because I just had a baby and all this. Pivot. Like, and just being open to like, and that's a relationship that I think when you have like certain boundaries and expectations, and like with her and I, we in particular were like certain things that are like not acceptable and things that are and stuff. That's a relationship that I feel like can grow, because I said that some relationships, like, you know, like my one friend just kind of dissolved, and it's not a bad thing, but
Yeah.
what held us together was like growing up, you know, and that's not enough to sustain, I think, in adulthood. So
Right.
yeah.
Maybe our takeaway from this is to DM somebody.
Yeah, like don't be afraid to slide in the DMs, not just relationship
Yeah.
wise, but you know, friendship wise. And I don't know, I've like would say in my 20s, especially the last couple years, like I feel like I don't date a lot and when we get into relationship talk, and I'm like someone who like is very empathetic and I take on other people's weight and stuff, but I'm really trying to work on in friendships and relationships like boundaries and like this isn't acceptable behavior and I don't deserve this, and being willing to be okay with people exiting your life that don't deserve a seat at the table, you know.
And I'm total opposite. Like, I could easily cut somebody out of my life.
I know. And I don't know why it's so hard for me. I think because I don't do things like when it comes to dating anyway. I don't do it a lot. So if I put my all into you, I'm like really into you. And it's like hard for me to like get rid of the version of you that you're clearly not in my head. And I don't know. Like I have a harder time with that. But I feel like I'm trying to be better. And I feel like I'm getting a little better. But it just takes me a moment.
Yeah. It is kind of weird, though, like thinking, like, okay, you cut these people out of your life. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's been years since I even talked to this person. Like,
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that. Like, I even think about like high school, all these people that you just grow up with for years and then you just don't see again.
Exactly.
And I don't have a lot of them on Facebook, so I really don't know like what they're doing.
Yeah, and that happened to me. I had two friendships about 2 years ago, and it's crazy that it's been 2 years because it doesn't even feel like that. That just I'd had for years and years and just kind of abruptly ended. I think I was done wrong. I'm sure they have their own stories, but they sucked. Bad friends, and that was like a really tough lesson. I mean, tough lesson to take is like you see someone a certain way and then something just kind of ends, and then it's like is that how you choose to move? Is this really how you choose to move in a situation? Like, oh my gosh, why have I had you in my life this long if that's how you're going to handle something that seems trivial? And it's just a lot. It's been a lot, I think, the last couple of years for me, reaching the end of my 20s and just like understanding like to not take anything personally. Everyone has their own personal stuff going on, and like that's sometimes beyond anything to do with you, and it's more a reflection of them, and you just have to accept it and move on. Obviously, we've seen that like things work out the way they're supposed to.
Right. So let's look at our tarot reading to see if it is any way, shape, or form related to what we just talked about. Let's see. So to end this, growth, change episode with a tarot card reading, and it's what's going against you. So we got the High Priestess. So insecurity is a devil that taunts you, but only if we listen to that doubting Thomas we all have in our heads. Ignore it. What do your instincts tell you? Perhaps you don't like what they say. Well, you could always go against your intuition, but we all know what that leads to, don't we?
I feel like that is a little in line with what we talked to in a way.
Your intuition is to still be friends with them because
that's what you're used to.
You have like a past and it's what you're used to. But
and you feel like you put effort and energy into it, and I think that probably does stem a little bit from a sense of insecurity. But I think if you're secure in yourself, you're like, you know what? If you don't think I need to be in your life, then I don't. See what life is like without me. This is going to be the consequences of your actions here is you don't get to have me in there anymore.
Exactly.
So,
and then you see what happens. You feel better after you've released that negative energy.
Yes.
Ta-ta, my friends. I hope you have an amazing day.
Good luck.
Whatever time you're watching this. We hope it's amazing.
We hope it's 11/11.
Make a wish.
Good luck out there.
Bye.